Have you ever wondered what would really happen if you unplugged from the digital world for a full 24 hours? What would it feel like to silence the constant notifications, to step away from the scrolling, and to experience life without a screen in your hand? And what truths about yourself might you uncover when the noise of the digital world fades into silence? Taking 24 hours offline may sound simple, but in today's hyper-connected society, it's one of the most radical acts you can commit. We live in a world where technology has become not just a tool, but the very air we breathe. Our mornings often begin with checking messages before even stretching. Our days are filled with notifications and digital interactions, and our evenings are swallowed by endless scrolling. Disconnection can feel like deprivation. Yet it's precisely in this act of stepping away that we discover how deeply technology has woven itself into our daily rhythms and how freeing it can be to loosen its grip. The idea of spending a day offline often sparks anxiety in people. What if I miss something important? What if someone needs me? What if I get bored? These questions are natural because we've grown dependent on digital platforms for communication, entertainment, and validation. But behind those fears lies a hidden opportunity, the chance to reconnect with life in a raw, unfiltered way. To see what surfaces when silence replaces the buzz of the phone, when stillness replaces the chaos of feeds, and when presence replaces distraction. Imagine waking up and not reaching for your phone. The first thing you notice is the absence of urgency. No emails waiting, no notifications tugging at your attention. Instead, there is just the morning light streaming through the window and the quiet of your own thoughts. For many, this feels disorienting at first. Without the instant dopamine hit of checking your device, you may feel restless, even a little lost. But this restlessness is part of the detox process. It reveals how conditioned your brain has become to crave stimulation and how rarely you allow yourself to just be. As the hours pass, you begin to notice things you usually overlook. The sound of birds outside your window, the way the sunlight changes color as the day progresses, the subtle tension in your shoulders that eases when you're not hunched over a screen. You may find yourself drawn to activities that don't require electricity: reading, journaling, cooking, walking, or simply sitting in thought. These acts, while simple, feel surprisingly refreshing. They remind you that fulfillment does not always come from constant stimulation, but often from stillness and simplicity. Disconnecting also reveals how deeply our relationships have been shaped by technology. In a digital world, much of our communication is fragmented: texts, likes, short replies. But when you step away from screens, you have the chance to connect differently. You might call a friend on a landline or knock on a neighbor's door. You might share a meal with your family without the glow of screens at the table. These interactions feel fuller, more authentic, because they are uninterrupted. You realize that connection is not about frequency, but depth, not about immediacy, but presence. Another unexpected effect of going offline for 24 hours is the return of boredom. At first, boredom can feel uncomfortable, even unbearable. Without the endless distraction of a phone, you may find yourself pacing, restless, searching for something to do. But boredom is not the enemy, it's an invitation. In the space that boredom creates, your mind begins to wander, to imagine, to create. Many people report that some of their best ideas surface when they are disconnected. Without constant input, the brain produces its own output. What initially feels like emptiness transforms into fertile ground for creativity and reflection. Going offline also sheds light on your relationship with productivity. In a connected world, productivity often feels like constant responsiveness, replying to messages, checking updates, staying in the loop. But when you disconnect, you realize how much of that activity is actually noise. Without digital interruptions, you may accomplish more in a few hours of focused work than in an entire day of multitasking online. Or you may discover that true productivity is not always about doing more, but about being present in what you do. Washing dishes, walking outside, or playing with your child may not produce measurable outcomes, but they bring peace and meaning, forms of productivity that the digital world often devalues. One of the most profound realizations of a 24-hour digital fast is that life goes on without you. The world doesn't collapse if you don't post, if you don't respond instantly, if you don't consume the latest news. This realization can be both humbling and liberating. It reminds you that your value does not depend on your digital presence, and it frees you from the illusion of urgency. Most of what you miss in 24 hours is trivial. What you gain, however, is priceless. A deeper connection to yourself and your surroundings. Of course, going offline also highlights the challenges of modern life. You may discover just how integrated technology is into daily routines, navigation apps for getting around, online recipes for cooking, or even digital alarms to wake up. This dependency can feel frustrating at first, but it also clarifies which tools genuinely serve you and which merely distract you. After your offline experiment, you may choose to reintroduce technology more intentionally, keeping only what aligns with your values and letting go of the rest. Many people who try a 24-hour disconnection report similar benefits: a clearer mind, better sleep, improved mood, and stronger presence with others. Some even find themselves reluctant to return to the constant buzz of the online world. While it's unrealistic to disconnect permanently in our digital age, these small experiments can reset your relationship with technology. They remind you that you are not powerless against the pull of screens. You can choose when to engage and when to unplug. But perhaps the most powerful outcome of going offline is the rediscovery of silence. Digital noise fills our days, leaving little room for inner voices to be heard. When you turn it off, you encounter silence, and in that silence, you encounter yourself. At first, this can feel unsettling. Silence brings up thoughts and emotions you may have been avoiding. But as you sit with it, silence becomes a friend, a mirror, a guide. It helps you see what truly matters and what is merely noise. The beauty of a 24-hour offline experiment is that it doesn't require major changes or commitments. Anyone can do it. All it takes is intention and a little preparation, letting people know you'll be unavailable, planning offline activities and setting aside your devices. Yet the impact can be profound, offering insights that reshape how you use technology long after the 24 hours end. At the end of the day, taking 24 hours offline is not about rejecting the digital world. It's about reclaiming your freedom within it. It's a reminder that technology should serve you, not control you. It's a chance to experience life unmediated, to rediscover the richness of presence, and to reconnect with what truly matters. So what really happens when you disconnect? You rediscover your senses, your creativity, your relationships, your peace. You realize that the world is still beautiful without a screen between you and it. And you remember that life is not found in notifications, but in moments. In a culture that celebrates constant connection, choosing disconnection is a radical act of self-care. It's a pause button in a world that never stops. And in that pause, you may find the clarity, calm, and meaning you've been searching for all along. Taking 24 hours offline is often described as a reset button for the mind. But what actually happens in the deeper layers of the experience? In part 1, we explored the initial disorientation, the discovery of silence, and the way boredom can become a gift. Now in part 2, let's unpack the psychological, emotional, and even physical shifts that occur when you commit to this practice, as well as the hidden opportunities that reveal themselves once you've stepped away from the screen. The first major shift is the rewiring of attention. Our brains are not designed to handle the constant barrage of notifications, alerts, and updates that dominate the digital age. Every time your phone vibrates or a banner pops up on your screen, your brain receives a jolt of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward. Over time, this conditions you to crave interruptions, to look for them even when none exist. That's why so many people find themselves unlocking their phone dozens of times a day without any clear reason. By going offline for a full 24 hours, you disrupt this cycle. At first, you may feel restless, your hand reaching for a device that isn't there, but with time, the craving subsides. Your brain begins to recalibrate, relearning how to sustain attention on a single task or thought without interruption. This recalibration opens the door to the second shift, rediscovering depth. In the digital world, we are constantly skimming, reading headlines, glancing at posts, skipping from one video to the next. Rarely do we stay long enough to dive deep. But when you disconnect, you create space for immersion. You may find yourself reading a book for hours without distraction, engaging in a conversation without glancing at a screen, or even sitting in quiet thought without the itch to check what's happening online. This depth is profoundly nourishing. It allows you to move beyond surface-level stimulation into experiences that leave a lasting imprint. As attention deepens, so too does emotional clarity. The digital world often functions as an escape from discomfort. Whenever we feel anxious, bored, or lonely, we reach for a screen. But when that crutch is removed, we are forced to face those emotions directly. At first, this can be uncomfortable. You may feel antsy, irritated, or restless. Yet as the hours unfold, something shifts. By not running from your emotions, you begin to process them. You realize that the discomfort passes on its own, often revealing insights about yourself that had been buried under digital noise. Many people report that after 24 hours offline, they feel emotionally lighter. Not because life's problems disappeared, but because they finally had space to breathe and reflect. Another profound benefit of going offline is the reawakening of the senses. Digital engagement narrows our awareness to a small rectangle of glass, but the offline world is full of rich sensory input that we often overlook. During your 24 hours, you may notice the crispness of the air during a morning walk, the texture of food as you savor a meal, or the subtle details of your surroundings that normally fade into the background. This sensory reawakening anchors you in the present moment. It reminds you that life is not abstract or virtual. It's tactile, vivid, and alive. Spending a day offline also has measurable physical effects. Constant digital engagement often leads to shallow breathing, poor posture, eye strain, and sleep disruption. When you unplug, these symptoms ease. Without blue light disrupting your circadian rhythm, your body begins to settle into its natural cycles. Without the constant need to bend over a device, your muscles relax. Many people report sleeping more deeply and waking up feeling more refreshed after a day offline. Your body, like your mind, benefits from rest. But the experience of 24 hours offline is not just about individual benefits, it also reshapes relationships. Technology has made communication easier, but not necessarily better. Conversations are often fragmented, distracted by incoming texts or the temptation to multitask. When you unplug, you offer people something rare: undivided attention. Sharing a meal without phones, walking with a friend without checking notifications, or playing with a child without glancing at a screen. All of these moments create bonds that are richer and more meaningful than dozens of distracted interactions online. Going offline reminds you that presence is the true currency of connection. There's also the opportunity to re-examine time itself. In the digital world, time often feels fragmented and accelerated. Hours vanish in endless scrolling, leaving you wondering where the day went. When you step away, time slows down. Without the constant pull of notifications, you become more aware of how you spend your minutes. You may notice that a single hour of focused activity feels expansive, that a leisurely walk feels like a gift, and that silence stretches time in a way that stimulation never can. This shift in time perception is one of the most surprising aspects of the offline experience. By the end of 24 hours, many people feel as though they've lived more, not less, even though they've technically done fewer things. Another dimension of going offline is the rediscovery of self-reliance. In the digital era, we rely on apps for everything: maps to guide us, reviews to tell us where to eat, videos to entertain us, feeds to inform us. But when those tools are unavailable, you're forced to depend on yourself. You might navigate by memory, cook without a recipe, or entertain yourself with creativity instead of content. This can feel challenging, even frustrating at first, but it ultimately restores confidence. You realize that you are capable, resourceful, and not as dependent on technology as you once thought. It's also worth noting that a 24-hour disconnection creates a unique opportunity for creativity. When your mind is not constantly processing external stimuli, it begins to generate its own. Ideas surface, connections form, and imagination flows. Many writers, artists, and innovators intentionally schedule offline days to tap into this wellspring of creativity. The silence and space act like a canvas for the mind. By the end of your 24 hours, you may find yourself with new ideas, renewed motivation, or simply a clearer vision of what you want in life. Yet despite all these benefits, going offline is not always smooth sailing. There are challenges, and one of the biggest is fear of missing out, FOMO. During your 24 hours, you may wonder what news you're missing, what messages are piling up, or what conversations are happening without you. But here's the paradox. While you're afraid of missing out online, you're also missing out on your own life offline. By shifting focus, you begin to see that what you gain, clarity, presence, connection, outweighs what you miss. The truth is, most of what you miss in 24 hours is irrelevant. But the presence you gain can be life-changing. Another challenge is withdrawal. For many people, digital engagement is not just a habit, but an addiction. The first few hours offline can trigger symptoms similar to withdrawal: restlessness, irritability, even anxiety. This is normal. It's your brain recalibrating after years of overstimulation. Pushing through this discomfort is key. On the other side lies calm, focus, and freedom. Each time you resist the urge to check your phone, you strengthen your ability to direct your attention where you choose, not where algorithms push you. The long-term impact of practicing 24-hour disconnections regularly is profound. Over time, you develop what might be called attention resilience, the ability to remain focused and calm even in a world designed to distract you. You become less reactive to notifications, less susceptible to digital manipulation, and more grounded in your own values. This resilience spills over into every area of life: work, relationships, creativity, and mental health. What's fascinating is that 24 hours offline also reshapes your relationship with technology itself. Instead of seeing it as an all-or-nothing proposition, you begin to approach it with discernment. You learn to distinguish between tools that genuinely add value and those that drain your time. You may return to email with a new boundary, to social media with a lighter touch, to news with more intentionality. Technology doesn't disappear, but it loses its grip on you. You reclaim the power to decide, rather than defaulting to constant use. At its core, the experience of going offline for 24 hours is about freedom. Freedom from constant demands on your attention. Freedom from the illusion of urgency. Freedom from the anxiety of comparison. But it is also about freedom to focus deeply, to connect authentically, to create boldly, to rest fully, to live presently. It's not about running away from the digital world, but about stepping back long enough to remember that you have a choice. And this choice is radical in today's culture. In a world where most people are chained to their devices, choosing to unplug even for a day feels rebellious. But it's a rebellion that leads to liberation. It reminds you that you don't exist to feed algorithms or provide clicks. You exist to live a life of meaning, depth, and joy. So what really happens when you disconnect for 24 hours? You rediscover your ability to focus, to feel, to connect, to create, and to rest. You encounter yourself without the mask of constant input. And perhaps most importantly, you realize that the digital world doesn't define you. You define how you engage with it. The practice of stepping offline may begin with a single day, but its effects ripple outward. It inspires you to design a healthier digital lifestyle, to set stronger boundaries, and to live with greater intention. And while one day won't solve all the challenges of the digital age, it can ignite a transformation that continues long after you reconnect. Taking 24 hours offline is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about reminding yourself of what it feels like to live fully awake, fully aware, and fully alive. And that reminder, once felt, is hard to forget. In the first two parts of this journey, we peeled back the layers of what happens when you step offline for 24 hours. The initial discomfort, the rediscovery of stillness, the sharpening of attention, and the deepening of relationships. Now, in this final part, we're going to push further into what this practice means for your long-term mindset, your daily life, and even the culture we live in. If you've ever felt exhausted by the constant pull of notifications or wondered whether it's even possible to take back control of your time, this is the chapter that will give you not just insight, but the conviction to make change. And before we dive deeper, remember to subscribe to Think Fresh Daily, like this video, and share it with others. Because together we can build a healthier digital culture where focus and presence are not luxuries, but norms. One of the first realizations that comes after multiple offline experiments is that digital overwhelm is not inevitable. Many people resign themselves to a life of constant distraction, believing this is simply the way things are in the 21st century. But 24 hours offline proves otherwise. It shows you that life exists without the digital tether, and that not only is it survivable, but it's enriching. This experience chips away at the belief that you are powerless against your devices. Once you've gone a full day without them, you realize that technology is not oxygen, it's a tool, and tools can be put down. From this realization emerges a deeper shift, the recognition that attention is the foundation of freedom. When your attention is constantly hijacked by algorithms and notifications, your choices are not fully your own. You may think you're deciding to scroll, but in reality, you're reacting to triggers carefully engineered to exploit your psychology. By reclaiming your attention, you reclaim your freedom. You can choose what to focus on, what to value, and what to pursue, instead of being guided by what's most clickable. This is not just a personal victory, it's a cultural one. In an age of distraction, choosing presence is a radical act of independence. Yet freedom is not just about detaching from the wrong things, it's about attaching to the right ones. When you disconnect, you create the space to ask deeper questions. What actually matters to me? What kind of life do I want to live? Who do I want to spend my time with? These questions rarely surface in the blur of online engagement, but they emerge naturally in silence. Many people who practice 24-hour offline days discover a clearer sense of purpose. They begin to see that their goals, relationships, and inner values are worth infinitely more than any trending topic or viral post. The absence of digital noise allows the voice of meaning to be heard. Another profound effect of this practice is rediscovering the rhythm of time. In the connected world, time feels fragmented into endless micro-moments, scrolling between tasks, swiping between conversations, juggling dozens of tabs. This fragmentation creates the illusion of busyness without the substance of progress. But in the offline world, time slows and stretches. You feel the natural rhythm of your day, morning light giving way to afternoon warmth, evening shadows settling into night. This rhythm has a calming effect on the nervous system. It grounds you, reminding you that life is not a race but a cycle, not a sprint but a flow. Spending time offline also helps you rediscover the art of focus. In the absence of constant pings, your mind learns again how to immerse itself. Whether it's reading, writing, cooking, or simply being with someone, you begin to savor the richness of single tasking. This is not just a quaint idea, it's a superpower in a distracted world. Research consistently shows that deep focus produces higher quality work, greater satisfaction, and more creative breakthroughs than multitasking ever could. By training yourself through regular offline days, you build a muscle of concentration that serves you in every area of life. But what about the fear of missing out? In part one, we touched on this, but here it deserves a closer look. FOMO is one of the biggest obstacles to disconnecting. The thought that you might miss a message, a headline, or an update feels unbearable. Yet after a few offline experiments, something remarkable happens. FOMO transforms into JOMO, the joy of missing out. You begin to realize that missing out is not a loss, but a gift. You don't need to consume everything. In fact, the less you consume, the more space you have for creation, reflection, and genuine living. Missing out on the noise allows you to tune into the signal. This transformation also reshapes your relationships with others. Offline days often reveal just how much screens have seeped into our interactions. When you commit to being fully present with someone, they feel it. Conversations deepen, moments stretch, trust grows. Even something as simple as maintaining eye contact without glancing at a screen becomes powerful. It communicates, you matter, I'm here with you. In a culture of half attention, full attention becomes a profound act of love. Many people find that their offline days strengthen bonds with family, friends, and even themselves. On a broader scale, regular offline practice cultivates resilience against manipulation. Every day, corporations and platforms compete to exploit your attention for profit. They use behavioral psychology, artificial intelligence, and persuasive design to keep you engaged. When you practice disconnecting, you train yourself to resist. You learn to recognize the hooks and opt out of them. This doesn't mean rejecting all technology, but it does mean refusing to be controlled by it. It's the difference between being a consumer and being a creator, between being used and using with intention. This brings us to perhaps the most important long-term impact: creating a digital lifestyle by design, not by default. After experiencing 24 hours offline, many people feel compelled to restructure their daily habits. They may introduce phone-free mornings, digital Sabbaths on weekends, or app-free evenings. They may curate their devices, deleting apps that drain and keeping only those that genuinely serve. Over time, this intentional design creates a new normal, a life where screens no longer dominate but simply support. This is where true balance is found. The cultural implications are equally important. Imagine what would happen if more people embraced regular offline practices. Workplaces might shift toward respecting boundaries instead of demanding constant availability. Families might reclaim dinner tables as spaces of connection. Communities might rediscover face-to-face engagement. A culture that values presence over distraction would be radically different from the one we know today. And it all begins with individuals willing to unplug, even for a day. Yet none of this is easy. Practicing disconnection takes courage. It means going against a culture that equates connectivity with relevance and availability with importance. It means being willing to feel discomfort, to sit with silence, to face yourself. But it also means reclaiming your humanity. Because at the heart of it, to be human is not to be endlessly connected, but to be deeply present. So what can you do after hearing all this? The answer is simple. Try it. Plan a 24-hour offline day. Let your contacts know you'll be unavailable. Set aside activities that don't require screens, and commit fully. Observe what happens, not just around you, but within you. Notice the discomfort, the insights, the shifts. And when the day ends, ask yourself, what did I miss? And more importantly, what did I gain? For many, the gain will be greater than expected. Peace of mind, clarity of purpose, and a renewed sense of control. And once you've experienced that, you may find it hard to go back to a life of constant distraction. That's the quiet revolution of disconnection. It doesn't just change your day, it changes your perspective. At Think Fresh Daily, our mission is to spark these revolutions in everyday life. To challenge the defaults of the digital age and replace them with intentional choices that restore meaning, balance, and focus. If you found value in this exploration of 24 hours offline, take a moment now to subscribe, like this video, and share it with others. Because the more of us who practice presence, the more we can shift the culture toward clarity and connection. Disconnection is not the end of something. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of a new relationship with time, with others, and with yourself. It's a reminder that you are more than your notifications, more than your feeds, more than your devices. You are a human being, capable of presence, depth, and meaning. And sometimes all it takes to remember that is 24 hours offline.